Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Happy 2019 everybody. My name's Trisha and I am the Inky Planner, and this year my planner is going to be a little different than it has in years past. For 2019 I decided to make a switch to this notebook bullet journal style of planning rather than inserts in a binder of some sort. I have always loved my A5, and that size works really well for me in terms of how much real estate I have on the page, but the size of the binder itself is pretty clunky in my purse. So I've been interested in making a change, and there's a couple reasons actually. Size is one, and a little bit more artistic flexibility, just wanting the inserts that I use, the format of them that are vertical, I love, but I wanted a little bit more space for creativity, I guess. And then I kind of was watching lots of YouTube videos and I stumbled across this beautiful notebook, and I think this was what sealed the deal for me. This is the Archer and Olive Dot Grid notebook. For starters, it's just gorgeous on the outside. I mean, they have very minimalistic covers, but I chose this one that has original artwork from the owner. I just think it's beautiful. I love the colors. I love the design. And when I received it, it is in fact much more compact, much smaller and thinner than my whole A5 system once I have the rings and the leather binder and all that. The inside is what sets it apart. So these pages have a faint dot grid pattern. It's very muted, it stays in the background, but it does allow for ease of laying out your pages. It has a nice elastic for keeping it closed. It does have a great pen loop. And then to me, the hugest selling feature is the quality of the paper itself. It is bright white as opposed to sort of that ivory off-white look that you can get in some notebooks, some bullet journals. It is bright, bright white, which I love, and it lays perfectly flat because of the hand-sewn binding, and it is so thick. It is smooth and thick. It's perfect for lettering. You can stamp on it in a wide variety of inks, even dark-colored dye inks. I found that markers and watercolors and just all sorts of mediums work beautifully on these pages and don't show through on the other side. So it just gives me lots of flexibility. So the very first thing I did was flip to one of the back pages and do a little media test here. This is just sort of the mediums that I'm most comfortable with. As my name suggests, I'm the Inky Planner, and I love my dye inks. So that's what I was really anxious to see. I did use some of my favorite pens, and I even tested out Sharpies as mild liners, Pitt pens, my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, both with and without water, both of which held up great. And then we dive into the inks, which is really where my heart lies and what I was most interested to see. So I tested some of my favorite brands. I have Hero Arts dye, Simon Says Stamp dye, which I chose a very dark color. They also have a hybrid line, so I tried to pick dark colors from each. I also tested Ranger dye ink in a nice juicy purple color, and then my Stampin' Up dye inks, which I always have good luck with, even on thinner paper. So I was expecting good results from those, but I did test them in the same really dark red that I did with the Simon Says Stamp. I also threw in the VersaFine Onyx Black. That's a pigment ink. I wouldn't expect that to bleed through as much, but I wanted to test it because I do like it a lot. And then at the very top, I created this banner, and I used a Sharpie black marker and colored it in, and I was going over it and over it to make it solid. So I figured if anything is going to get through this paper, that has to be it. I was going back and forth, back and forth. So you'll see when I flip over that is in fact where we did have a little bit of bleeding. Honestly, I thought it would be way worse, but you do see it. It's not soaking through the page like the page is going to tear, but you definitely would have to cover that up from the back. So I probably won't use like coloring in solid objects with Sharpie. But where I just wrote with the Sharpie, it's very faint. So a single pass, like right here in the middle where I just wrote with a black Sharpie, it actually did okay versus coloring it in, lots and lots of passes back and forth. You can see a little bit of shadowing on the back with the single pass writing, but it's certainly not bad. And the only other place where I saw a little bit through from the other side was the dark red ink from Simon Says Stamp. So if you look back, this is that dark red. And these inks are phenomenal inks. They are formulated to soak through paper and create just that gorgeous solid color that you see. So they're designed for cardstock, so nothing against these inks at all. But in my planner / bullet journal, I am going to have to be a little careful with that particular brand in a really dark color. I bet I could get away with it just fine in a lighter color because it did not bleed. It just sort of shadowed. But you can see there's nothing else you can see. So the dark red from Simon Says Stamp did show through, but the dark red from Stampin' Up! Did not. And then just being a little bit careful with that black Sharpie to make sure I don't, overuse that. I don't really use the Sharpie too much anyway, so I'm not worried about it. So overall, I'm thrilled with how this paper has held up, and I feel like I can play with all of my different supplies, and I can add a little water if I want and do a little more of a watercolor look on some things, and I really just did not have any problems. So I was so happy. I am super excited to get started in this amazing quality notebook. Okay, so fast forward about a week and a half, and I've had a chance to play in my notebook, and I'm loving it every bit as much as I thought I would, and I thought I would just give you a little flip through. I didn't film process videos yet, just because I'm still so new to this, and I'm kind of fumbling through some of the setups, and I figured I'd work out the kinks first before I'm sharing anything. So I haven't even filled out this first page yet, but the first spread I do have a plan for, and it'll just say, excuse me, it'll just say 2019. As I get that noodled out, I may turn on the camera and see how that goes, and maybe I'll film that one. But my next spread was the index, and the index has the theme that I wanted to go with for sort of my overall 2019 setup, which was a balloon theme, my one little word, if you will, or whatever my focus is for 2019 is rise or elevate. I haven't completely gotten all my thoughts sorted on the matter, but that's my focus. So I thought balloons went really nicely with that idea and will continue to remind me to elevate myself and to rise in a lot of ways in my life. That's a whole separate conversation. But that's why I chose this theme. And I just created a box. Couldn't be simpler. I wrote in index up here, and this is where I will track the pages for my book. I do have to write in the page numbers as I go because this journal is not numbered. Okay, 2019 at a glance. The other reason I chose balloons as my theme is because they're super easy to draw. So when I need to change the size, I can just draw them in and apply them to the pages as I want. This page can be really tedious to set up, but I do like it as a reference. If you're just jumping ahead and you want to see, oh, the 19th of July lands on a Friday or something like that. It's just an easy, good reference to have. It was made a whole heck of a lot easier using this stamp set from Waffle Flower. This is a stamp set I've had in my stash for a long time, and honestly, I did not have a ton of use for it. I'm hoping that you can see this without too much glare. I'm going to zoom in here for you. But it has all of the little monthly layouts with every possible start date. So if the month starts on a Tuesday or starts on a Thursday, whatever, it has all of the options there. So all I did was just figure out how big I needed my box to be, and then I stamped these in, which went really fast and so much easier than trying to write all these numbers out myself. And they do also have stamps for the headers for the days of the week. I just wrote those in. I figured that was quicker. But there's a lot you can do with this great stamp set. I believe it's just called Calendar, and it's by Waffle Flower. If it's still available, I will link it below. Okay, my next page was a goals page, and I'm back to my balloon theme here. I stamped a bunch of balloons in these gorgeous colors, and this is my, elevating theme of my lofty goals. So I just sketched that out, and I used these awesome stamps, again from my stash. These are by My Favorite Things, and I believe it's called Party Balloons. And I loved, again, how simple these designs were and how I could get big spots of color on the page, and then I could write a goal in each one. And I'm still sort of finalizing my goals, so I have yet to fill them all in. This page was inspired very directly by Amanda Rachley. I will link her channels below. But this is just a spot to jot down suggestions when friends or family reference movies they've seen or books they love, and I want to make a mental note to check them out. This is a good spot to put them. This is a section for downtown. I live in a suburb outside of Detroit, and Detroit is super cool lately. It is making a whole huge resurgence. There are amazing restaurants and very fun things to do downtown, and so I'm just trying to get down there a little bit more often. And anytime somebody gets down there and recommends something, I am going to include it here. This is also copied absolutely verbatim from Amanda Rachley. I just thought it was brilliant and such a time saver, so thank you so much for sharing that, Amanda. And again, I will link her below. You've got to check out a lot of these more experienced bullet journalists on YouTube and Pinterest and Instagram. It's just a really great source of inspiration. But this is just a cheat sheet for your grid spacing. So depending on how you need to divide your page, this is a handy reference. If you need 4 columns, then you can quickly refer to the quarters, and you can see how many boxes you need to count in order to divide your page into quarters. Super simple, but really, really valuable. On this page, I have 2 kind of 2019 trackers. I wish that I had as many books on my goal as so many people do out there. A lot of people fill an entire page with this, but I just have not had the time to read as much as I would like lately. So I only have 6 books, and I just doodled these in by myself on a little shelf here. Super easy to draw. And if I finish a book, I will write the title in. Hopefully I will read many more than 6 books this year, but I just thought that was a conservative goal to get started. And then this grid here is anything I want to accomplish on a monthly basis, and I just created this grid and put the initials of the month going across, and then I have some categories down here. So for example, at least once a month my husband and I like to get out by ourselves and go out on a date. So I'd like to check that off when we do it. This page I have reserved for a quote. Again, that'll tie into my Rise theme, so it may have balloons worked into it, but I haven't figured that out yet, so that's why it's just sort of saved. And then this is where my January section starts. January has a little bit of a different color scheme. I wanted to go with cool blues and teals and a little bit of like a periwinkle color. So this is just hand drawn. I sketched it in pencil first and then went over it in a dark marker and added some shadows and highlights. And this too is hand drawn. Again, just taking a little time with a straight edge and a pencil to create a pretty snowflake. And then I just colored it in with one of my mild liners actually. And that kicks off January in Michigan, where I am, which is chilly and icy and cold. So into January and the things that I care about on a monthly basis. I do have a reference grid. I don't do any planning in my month at a glance. I do all that on a weekly basis. But I do like to look at it, and it's really for travel or birthdays. I just kind of get an idea of when we're out of town and are there birthdays coming up or any like days off school, just some things like that. But certainly not my day-to-day appointments. But I just drew that in, again, kind of counting my grid boxes, and it really is, for me, some people might find this very tedious, and I don't know, maybe after a couple months I will too, but I found it kind of relaxing, actually, to just sort of like, I guess that's the way my mind works, to count this out and to be sort of precise about it. I don't know, I liked it a lot. I'm trying to focus on a couple things this month, so I wanted to keep them front and center here. And then I created some habits. There are 10 million ways to do habit tracking on a monthly basis. I have watched lots of videos on them. This to me seemed, at the end of the month, when I want to just look back at how did I do, you know, making water a priority this month. It felt like I could really isolate that one habit and get a visual on it pretty quickly if I separated them into their own boxes. I'm doing dry January. We are social drinkers, and I'm trying to stay away from it this month, both for calories and health and everything else. So again, I am checking them off as I go, and it'll be easy at the end of the month to look back and go, did I get it or didn't I? Again, I use that same stamp from Waffle Flower to create these. It makes it really easy to do. This is another kind of, what's the word, scrap lifted? I totally stole this from Planning with Kay. I will link her channels below, but I loved that you get sort of a mood indicator for each day, but then you also just get a quick one-line review. What happened that day? What was different, unusual, fun, and I kind of liked that. So this is for the month of January, and I created my colors. I felt like were pretty darn close to each other. I stayed so close in the same color family that I actually put some icons, and I'm just drawing these, you know, draw a star, draw arrows, whatever, and then that way I can clearly see what my day was like. So on to my weeklies for January. I always feel that every week is a little different. This week in particular, we were on vacation. So I didn't have any appointments. I didn't have a lot of chores and task lists that I was focused on. We were just having fun. So this week, I just wanted to write down what we did. I wanted to keep my memories intact and talk about where we went to eat and some of the highlights of each day. So I went really simple here. I also broke away from my color palette a little because since I was going with a really cool snowy color palette for January, I wanted, you know, this week we were in Florida and it was warm and sunny and beautiful, so I threw some brighter, warmer colors in there as well, a little rainbow action. So this, I only needed 6 days in January also because the first fell on a Tuesday, and again, that's the beauty of the bullet journal is you can just customize that. So I just made a nice even 3 columns per day and jotted in our activities. The next week, I had shared this on Instagram. I had actually created these pages on separate A5 paper from my planner and had them in my ring bound planner. And once I got this book and I had gotten it set up, I just trimmed the pages out, you know, cut out the punched holes from the centers and glued them in. And you can see you get very similar amount of space between my A5 ring bound and this A5 stitched bound book here. So I just transferred it in here. I didn't want to have to redo the week or recreate the wheel. I had already been really happy with how this turned out. I think when I shared it, it was before the pen, so now you can see what it looks like after I fill everything in for the week. And then this is my current week, and I went with a very similar layout. You know, I wanted a section for my overarching tasks and a section for kind of forward planning, things that I knew I had coming up but that weren't necessarily urgent. So I did the exact same thing. The only thing I changed was this time I split Saturday and Sunday, and that was to accommodate this tall stamp that I wanted to use on the side. Whereas this time I left Saturday and Sunday in their own columns, but I put the stamp down here at the bottom. And again, kind of sticking with the same colors, some snowflakes stamped in the background, and just some cozy images of Mittens and the mug with coffee or hot cocoa or whatever it is. So I'm loving the flexibility, even just with design elements, let alone with the amount of space that you want to dedicate per day or how you want it organized. And I'm sure I will continue to play with this and just see how it goes. Next, I didn't get into planning next week yet, but again, this is one of the things about bullet journaling that's really nice is right here between weeks, I decided that I want to start tracking the cash because I felt like we were just sort of blindly spending a lot of cash and I wasn't figuring out where it was going. So I have it covered up with my little quick grocery post-it there, but you know, I just made a quick easy banner and I'm just gonna write down all the cash that I spend in January just to get a handle on it. And then over here, I sketched in pencil, so I'm not sure if you can see it, but it says keto meal ideas. And then I just created a big box and I'm trying to follow a low carb eating plan. And so I'm just, when I'm blanking on what to make for dinner, this will be a page that I can reference, that I can come and just say, oh, that's, you know, an easy dinner to make and it follows the diet, and just reminders, because I don't know why, but sometimes my brain just goes blank when it comes to what I'm going to make for dinner. So I have yet to fill this in. I know I have some tall, skinny stamps. I think they're also from Waffle Flower, and I was envisioning stamping those here and then just drawing a banner out of either side. So I'll post a picture of that page once it's done. But that's what I have so far. I am 20 pages into this journal, which includes everything I need for January plus my 2019 yearly setup. And then this will be next week. And if I'm feeling brave, I will flip the camera on and shoot the process video. Or I'll just shoot you a picture of it when it's done. But that's me getting started here. I'm very happy with it. As far as supplies go, I picked up this pencil case. This was recommended by Julie from Plan to Create. I will link her channel below also. She is super creative and does brilliant planner spreads, so you've definitely got to check her out. She's the inspiration for my vertical columns here. But what I have in here is a good pencil, a couple of good erasers. I do have a water brush so that I can do a little watercoloring if I want to. I have a correction tape and a little pencil sharpener for my pencil here. And that's all in the pouch side. And then in the pencil case side, I have this 6-inch straight edge, which I don't need this curved part, although I suppose if I do like mandalas or something, I will. But for right now, I really just want like a 6-inch ruler. I just haven't gotten one yet. But this is serving my purpose for the time being. And then I have a big pouch full of all my mild liners that I keep in my drawer in my office. But for this theme, I have just chosen a couple of mild liners for the month. And I figured those are the ones that come in my purse with me. They all match the theme of what I'm doing. And so I've got a couple basic, or a couple colors, and then a neutral to go with it. I have several nib sizes of just waterproof permanent pens. And this is a gray and a black of a brush tip pen if I want to do lettering. And then I have a white gel pen also. And then this is, I think this is another color of blue. This is the Pitt Artist pen from Faber-Castell. So again, I'm not taking my entire pen collection with me on the road. I'm going to pick a handful of colors each month that stick with my theme, and then my blacks and grays, and that comes with me in my purse. So this is nice and compact, and that just comes with me in my purse along with my nice compact bullet journal, which is so nice and thin and doesn't get all junked up in my purse. As far as filling these out goes, I'm loving this little stripe where I'm just running my mild liner. It couldn't be quicker across the page, but it's just something different than a big blank rectangle, and it also sort of gives you landing places for each item in your list. And this week I took my darker blue mild liner and I made a swipe across for all of my events. And then my more aqua mild liner, I just made a little checkbox when I have tasks. So just something as simple as that makes it really easy as I look through this week, even though there's a lot happening and I don't have a lot of, you know, stickers and labels and grids and stuff like I've done in my other pages. But this, it's very easy for me to see appointments because they get a full bar across of color. And then all of my tasks get these little checklists, and staying consistent like that, I've really liked it this week. So we'll see. I will continue to play with all of this. And as I said, once I'm brave enough, I will turn on the camera for a process video once I feel like I've got a handle on this and share the process as I go through it. But I hope you enjoy what you're seeing, and if you've ever been inspired to give bullet journaling a try, this notebook would absolutely be a recommendation of mine, and I'm having fun playing around with it, so maybe you would too. So that's it. Thanks everybody for watching, and I will be back with a process video hopefully very soon. Have a great day.